Good evening, everyone. My name is Nicholas Calderon, and I am the director of the San Mateo County Parks Department. And I'd like to welcome you to tonight's evening's workshop. Tonight's workshop will be conducted in both English and Spanish. So before we begin, we would like to provide information for those who would like to listen to the presentation in Spanish. So I'm going to turn it over to Victor, who has some information.
Thank you so much, Nick. Can everybody hear me okay? Buenas noches. Le queremos dar a todos ustedes la bienvenida. Me llamo Nicolás Calderón y soy el director de lo que son el Condado de San Mateo, Departamento de Parques. Otra vez le queremos dar la bienvenida y este taller va a ser tanto en inglés como en español, así es que ahorita vamos a proveer las instrucciones para aquellas personas que quieran acceder al canal de español. Para acceder al canal de audio, usted tendrá que hacer clic en el botón de interpretación, que es un icono de un globo o un mundo que está localizado al fondo de su pantalla en la barra de tareas de esta plataforma de Zoom. Después aparecerá un menú y entonces usted podrá seleccionar su idioma. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much.
So again, I'd like to personally thank all of you for taking time out of your busy day to meet with us tonight. We're very excited that you've joined us to learn more about this project and to work with us as we move from reimagining to realizing Flood Park. Tonight's workshop will be the first in a series of 3 workshops designed to engage the community as we develop the designs for the park. We know that Flood Park means different things to different people, and using the information received at these workshops, as well as other engagement opportunities, we will strive to deliver a project that balances these perspectives and offers the experiences that you as park users want. Tonight's workshop includes a presentation that will provide everyone with an overview of the history of the project and why it's a county priority. We're also going to we're also going to talk about the direction in which we're going and how we plan on getting there. The second part of the program will include a series of breakout groups focused on different aspects of the park. The breakout groups will be an opportunity for you to provide input, ask questions, share your ideas, hear what others have to say, and really shape the designs of the project. The public engagement process is a chance for us to hear from the public on how you would like to see the proposed features designed. These include playgrounds, the pump track, picnic and reservation sites, sports fields, to name a few. Because the landscape plan was already adopted by the Board of Supervisors and analyzed in accordance with CEQA, the process we are in right now is really about designing the features that the public had asked for during the process that we will cover tonight that occurred starting in 2015. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Carla for a land acknowledgement.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Carla Schoaf. I'm the communications manager for San Mateo County Parks. It's important that we understand and acknowledge the long-standing history that has brought us to reside on and use these lands, and to seek to understand our place within that history. San Mateo County Parks acknowledges that our lands are located on the ancestral homeland of the Ohlone peoples, and that as the original stewards of this land, the Ohlone understood the interconnectedness of all things and maintained harmony with nature for millennia. Indigenous communities have lived in and moved through this place over hundreds of generations, and Indigenous peoples from many nations live and work in this region today. Please join us in acknowledging and honoring their ancestors, their elders, and their communities.
Thank you, Carla. So as owner and manager of the property, San Mateo County Parks is the lead agency for this project. And so joining me tonight from our team, I'd like to make some introductions. First, we have Hannah Ormshaw, who is the Assistant Director of the San Mateo County Parks Department. Carlos Schuf, who you just heard from, is our Communications Manager. Scott Lombardi is our Superintendent of Operations. Rogelio Castaneda is our Lead Park Ranger for the district that includes Flood Park. Dan Krug is our Arborist, and Christina Fitzgerald is our Project Manager. Supporting the department in this extremely important project, we have a fantastic team of consultants led by CMG Landscape Architect. As you can see, the team includes a wide range of specialists, including Skio, who is collaborating with CMG to organize and facilitate the community engagement process. And so now we'll want to provide an overview of the process that has occurred to date. So Flood Park has served the community in many different ways for over 86 years. In 2015, an assessment revealed that almost all of the park's facilities and amenities and infrastructure needed repair or replacement. At the same time, the community demand for additional recreational facilities and a safe place for youth to congregate and recreate was growing. In response, San Mateo County sponsored the Reimagined Flood Park project, which was an in-depth community engagement process that identified community goals and priority uses for the park and helped develop the vision plan. During multiple community meetings and surveys, we heard from over 500 meeting participants and received over 200 survey responses. It was these voices and opinions that were used to develop the landscape plan that we'll discuss here shortly. Next slide, please. So you'll see a project overview here in timeline. And as you can see, this started at the end of 2015 when the Reimagined Flood Park process and its community engagement process started, which included the review of the assessments, engaging with the public, and holding community meetings in the community. And unfortunately, because of the circumstances we're in right now, we're relying on virtual, and we're really excited to see the turnout that we have. And we're very optimistic that later in this process, we'll be able to see you all in person to continue this process. Between 2017 and 2019 was the environmental review process, or the SEQRA process. And then in 2020, the department presented for the Board of Supervisors consideration the landscape plan, which was adopted, and the environmental impact report was certified. And so now we're in the design phase, and that's really what we're starting tonight. And so while our consultants have been doing data collection, tonight is the first chance for us to really hear from you all in the public and be able to dive into the details of how you want to be able to recreate. Next slide, please. So during the 2015 visioning and community engagement process, the public prioritized the following project goals: promoting healthy lifestyles, preserving existing trees, incorporating innovative technologies, creating community gathering spaces, and expanding the types of uses that are in the park. These goals will continue to guide us as we refine and develop the overall park design. Next slide, please. These goals were supported by priorities for park programs. These include a destination play, picnic areas, access to nature, sports fields, trails, cultural resources, including the adobe structures that are currently in the park, community gathering spaces, public art, demonstration gardens, court sports, nature plays, and so much more. Next slide, please. During the Reimagine phase, we explored a range of different park programs and conceptual designs, including the Central Park alternative, which was voted by meeting participants as the preferred alternative at the time. This alternative was refined in 2016 based on community input. Key refinements included shifting the multi-use field to the northeast corner of the park, reducing the number of tennis courts from 4 to 2, eliminating the smaller practice softball field, adding an additional sand volleyball court, and adding a bicycle pump track and adventure play. The plan was then further refined in 2020 based on feedback received during the environmental review process. Key refinements made at that time included relocating the multi-use field to the southwest part of the park. And we also determined that the addition of a large multi-use field overlaid in the outfield would provide the most flexible, dynamic use of the park. We heard from a lot of residents during our engagement process and our environmental review process that there are two big needs for the community. One is more space for organized sports and more space for drop-in use. And so that was a message that came through loud and clear for us. The 2020 landscape plan is the starting point for our design phase. As stated earlier, the landscape plan has been adopted and the environmental review process has been completed. And so now we get to dive into the fun details of how we design these features. Briefly, you'll see a lot of, on the image, you see these numbers that correspond to certain facilities or features. And so you'll see that there's a promenade, a focal element for gathering. There's a gathering plaza. We're working to preserve the Adobe admin building. We are going to maintain the quantity and capacity of picnic spaces. We have a demonstration garden. We're very excited that this will have the first all abilities playground in the San Mateo County Park system, as well as an adventure play. We're adding basketball and an amphitheater. Earlier, I talked about the pump track, and we have multi-use sport fields, as well as a tennis courts that will also be striped for pickleball. So you'll see that the park has been, the landscape plan has really been designed to meet the needs of what the public has told us throughout this entire process. And what we get to start today is the design of this. So as part of the upcoming design process, we'll be developing detailed designs for each of these elements. We'll study the scale and final location of key spaces, including the picnic areas. We'll consider how the elements flow and support one another, and we'll better understand how you want to use the park and what experiences you want to have while there. One of the most exciting parts, as I spoke earlier, is the fact that we're going to have the first all abilities playground in the San Mateo County Park system. And at each step, we will share our findings with the community and gather your input through workshops and surveys. Next slide, please. While we would like to construct this project in one phase, we're not quite sure that that's going to be feasible. We have to look at many different factors. And so looking at things like funding and construction schedules, and as well as what the public tells us, we will be developing phases for construction. Right now, the first phase is what you see before you, and this includes the promenade and the basketball court and the pump tracks, sports fields. We have grant funding for some of this. And so, so as we hear from the public, we will better shape how these phasing plans look. But as you see on the slide, there's a lot that needs to be considered when developing these phases and determining what would be in a phase one or a phase two. So that's another factor of what we're looking to hear from everyone tonight is which features, really you're most excited about, and then for us to figure out how we could phase that. So I'm going to stop right there, and I think we're going to have some questions, a Q&A session, essentially. And so we're going to use the chat function for that. And so let us know at this point any questions that you have.
Yeah, I have a question. My name's Amr. I'm with Alpine Strikers.
Yes.
Sorry, I meant to use the chat function. Sorry, I'm driving, so I can't. But I just want to put this in chat. Do we know, or do you have a timeline of when the groundbreaking will be?
great question. We would like to break ground in early 2023. That's what we're targeting as a groundbreaking for phase one. And I see here, and so I see here in the chat that there are questions regarding trees and heritage trees. And so as the county defines it, the way the landscape plan is currently drafted, no heritage trees will be lost. With regards to how many trees in general will be lost, we can't answer that question until we go through the design process. And that's really what we're here to discuss at this workshop, at future pop-up events, at future community events, is where certain amenities are going to be located. And based on that, we'll be able to have a more firm answer for that question. But in the meantime, until we're able to really engage with the public, that's not a question we can answer fully.
Nicholas, I think it might be worth mentioning here too that as part of this presentation that we intend to have all of our breakout groups and have a lot more facilitated discussion about a lot of these individual topics. Right now, we just want to see what are your general questions and concerns. We're not necessarily going to go through the chat and answer every single question right now. We are going to have a lot more opportunities where we can talk about these in smaller groups too. So keep the questions coming so we can see what it is you're concerned about and what you want to know about. But we do have a lot more information we're still going to be presenting. Just wanted to give you an opportunity now to ask any quick questions.
Yeah, thank you, Christine. And some of the breakout sessions include sports and play, which will answer the sport questions that are being asked. There's an urban forestry breakout session, which will answer some of the tree questions that people are asking. So I think that's a great point, Christina, which is those conversations will be had in more detail at those breakout sessions.
So what are we here for? Just to hear what's happening? We don't get to talk about, the trees or the things that people, it seems beautifully planned, but everything is planned for people. And that sort of concerns me, like every single, I wish there was just a place where people could be at peace with trees. I know that sounds corny, but that's the way I feel. It's a beautiful place, and I really hate to organize it to death. I'm sorry, but that was the point that I wanted to make, and I'm very concerned about cutting down those trees. I've just gotten back. This is off the topic, but I'll just say I've just gotten back yesterday from going to Wonderlick Park, which they have butchered beyond all recognition. It's just terrible. And so anyway, I just wanted to speak for that. I know it doesn't sound very smart, whatever.
No, ma'am, that's the exact type of feedback we're looking to have and receive today. And that's what the breakout sessions really are for, is to have that type of conversation and to have an opportunity to hear what others in the community are thinking. So that's the exact type of feedback we're hoping to hear today.
Okay,
so please do not apologize. No, that's what you're saying is what we want to hear.
So I should come back when there is a breakout session, is what you're saying?
We're going to have breakout sessions shortly.
Shortly. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll just turn off the video, but listen. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, why don't I go ahead and turn it over to Chris, who's the lead consultant, who will start talking about the design phase and the breakout sessions.
Hey, thanks, Nicholas. Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Guillard. I'm a principal and founding partner with CMG Landscape Architecture. And on behalf of our whole team, I'd like to express the honor and excitement we bring to this project and the opportunity to work with you to realize Flood Park. We've been busy behind the scenes, working to understand the history of the park, the diverse communities that it serves, the vision that Nicholas shared, and the amazing opportunity for creative and community-driven design. So speaking of our team, I'd like to introduce Lauren Stahl. Lauren's a senior associate and will be leading and managing the consultant team and the design process. Excuse me. Arturo Fuentes Ortiz will be the project designer and will be instrumental in our efforts to bring the vision alive. And Miranda Mopin from SKIO is the lead on community engagement and is working closely with the county to organize and facilitate our participatory process. Each of them will be facilitating one of the breakout groups this evening. I'm going to go ahead and share a slide here. And as we begin this conversation together, I'd like to share 4 principles that we believe are essential to our collective success. And the first is that we honor the voices that have shaped the plan to date. As Nicholas noted in his introduction, the county conducted an extensive process of outreach and community participation that established the program for the project. And it's imperative that we honor those voices and realize the goals that the community has established. Now with that, we want to maximize opportunities for ongoing community participation. And first and foremost, we value the time that you're giving to the community by participating in this conversation. Through a series of workshops, surveys, and community events, we will provide multiple opportunities for input and discussion along the way. Our third principle is respecting existing resources. We all know that Flood Park is a magical and delightful place that has brought respite, recreation, and community together for generations. As landscape architects with a deep appreciation for the park's history and ecological value, we will respect the existing resources by preserving the park's arboreal character and historic adobe structures. The place that we call Flood Park has been many places. We need to honor all of its histories, and we also need to take this incredible opportunity to restore it and make it a place that generations will come to play, celebrate, and connect with nature. Our approach is to bring change with care. To do that, we've developed a community engagement process that will build on the community developed landscape plan. You want to go to the next slide, Lauren? Thank you. And importantly, welcome new voices. We're going to supplement the 3 workshops that we planned by going out to the community with pop-up events. And we're going to include a combination of virtual and in-person options for participation. As Nicholas noted, and tonight's conversation is being conducted in Spanish as well, we'll continue to provide opportunities to participate in Spanish throughout. And we're really here to build momentum and excitement for such an incredible place and project. So our design process that we'll be working through here over the course of this year begins with schematic design that will start here in February and run through late May. During that stage of the design process, we'll be refining the landscape plan and developing options for each of the key programmatic elements within the plan. We'll then move into design development, where we will refine the design based on feedback that we receive in the second workshop and in some of the community events, and further developing the technical resolution of the design. And then the last phase of the documentation is to complete the technical documents for bidding and construction. The project will then go to the Board of Supervisors to approve the first phase of construction in the budget. And we're anticipating that will be completed by November or December of this year. As we noted, we have 3 workshops scheduled. The first one here tonight, one at the end of schematic design, where we will be sharing out and engaging everyone in a discussion about some of the options for the overall configuration of the spaces and the individual spaces within the park. And then we'll have a third workshop where we share further refinement of that design with the community in advance of completing the construction documents. Along the way, we'll also be hosting a series of pop-up events that we mentioned. As part of the schematic design phase, we're planning 2 events, one that's focused on the overall park design, and another that's focused on the design of the all abilities and adventure play spaces. And for that event, we're planning a multi-generational gathering that will guide the creation of play spaces that welcome all ages and abilities. During design development, we'll host 2 additional events. One will be focused on athletic and recreational programs, and the goal is to engage youth and teens. And at a second event, we'll be sharing out an overview of the design and what we've heard from the community. And then following the third workshop, we're planning to host an event where we will share out the final design and ideally be celebrating and discussing next steps. In addition to that work, the county has formed a working group to provide input and guidance on how best to realize the vision. And the working group is composed of 7 community members who have participated in the process previously and/or have specific community knowledge and experience. And the purpose of the group is really to seek a shared understanding of how to balance the project goals, to inform us in our design process, and enlist community leaders in sharing information. We had a great walking tour of the park with the group a few weeks ago, and the group will be convening before and after each community workshop to review community input and discuss next steps in the development of the design. Following approval of the proposed design and phase 1 budget in November or December, the project will then go out to bid for several months. We're anticipating that that will happen in early 2023, with groundbreaking occurring in spring of 2023 and construction starting there and moving through the end of the year, likely into early 2024. And I'll just note that the construction and phasing are all very preliminary, and those will be refined and updated as we move through the process. So with that overview of the project and the process and opportunities for you to participate, we're now going to go ahead and break out into discussions based on 3 topics. We'll have 2 sessions. The first will be 25 minutes and the second will be about 20. So you'll have an opportunity to participate in 2 out of the 3 topics. We also have a Spanish language group for those who prefer to participate in Spanish. And those attendees will be able to pick 2 out of the 3 topics as well. And all the content will be the same throughout all of the groups. So the 3 topics that we're going to be working on this evening are urban forest and ecology, sports and play spaces, and historic resources, picnic and gathering areas. During the breakout groups, we'll be using Mentimeter to gather your input on a series of questions, and Mentimeter is an app that allows for real-time polling in a virtual context. There are a couple of ways to access the Mentimeter app. You can either do it on your computer or on your phone. 2 ways. One is to just go to www.menti.com and type in the code at the top of the screen that you'll see within the breakout group introduction. The other option is that you can go to the chat box in the breakout room, and we'll be posting a link that you can click on to join the Mentimeter presentation. So for those of you with both a computer and a phone, I suggest that you use your computer to view the presentation in Zoom and your phone to participate in the Mentimeter questions. If you're attending only on your phone, you'll need to move back and forth between the Zoom meeting and the Mentimeter survey if you'd like to respond to and view the questions. So before we go into the breakout groups, we'd like to give everyone an opportunity to try the app and let us know where you're from. So we're going to take a moment and change presentations here. And you can see here at the top of the screen, there's the code for the Mentimeter. You can log into www.menti.com or go into the chat box and look for a link that should be coming up shortly. And just click on the map where your home is. And if you live outside of the map box there, you can use the I live outside of the box map. We'll give everyone a moment to get in there and share where you're from.
Hi, it's not letting me click on it.
Interesting. Were you able to log into the Mentimeter app?
Yes, but on the page that came up, when I would click on the map, nothing happened.
When you clicked on it, did you see a dot in the request to submit?
There's a dot at Flood Park, but I can't move it. And there is a request to submit, but I haven't clicked that yet because I haven't been able to indicate my location.
Interesting. Are you on your phone or on a computer?
Computer.
It's the same here. I do the same thing. Nothing happens. I'm on the map also.
So I'm happy to submit because I'm certainly within your area. It's just, I want to indicate that it's not working, right?
Interesting. It seems to be working for a number of folks. And
It worked.
Well, it's not working for me either.
It is. I should say this is just a test question. So the other question formats that we're using in the breakout rooms won't require you to use the same dot format. So they might be a little easier to use once we get into the breakout rooms.
Okay, so I'm going to click submit, but something's not right yet.
Once I submit,
I think you'll find a lot of people are going to live at Flood Park.
Yes. It's not working for me either.
Yeah.
It's not working.
And in fact, it won't let me submit.
Worse on the phone. Me neither.
Okay, well.
No, won't do anything.
I just want to let
This
everyone
doesn't
know
work.
that we're not going to rely on this entirely for our discussion this evening. We just have a few questions that we thought would be great to have some live polling on. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and move us on to get into the breakout groups. And to do that, you should see in the bottom right of your screen on your Zoom, there's an icon for breakout rooms, 4 squares, and you can go ahead and click on that square and then choose the first of the sessions that you would like to join, 2 out of the 3. So go ahead and choose your first one, join the group, and we'll see you all in the breakout groups.
That are being put in the chat, we are taking note of what is being brought up during the interactive opportunities through Mentimeter. And we're seeing that all, we're hearing that all, and we're going to go through that in a very detailed way to be able to digest that. And I just want to make sure that everyone is aware and walks away from today understanding that we are hearing what you're saying. We are seeing the comments that you're putting in, and from our perspective and from what I've seen, and I haven't been in all the breakout sessions, but from what I've seen, I think there's been a wealth of information exchanged and good dialogue occurring. So I want to thank you all for that and just reassure you all that, we are hearing what you're saying, and we will be bringing that back and digesting that and relying on that information as we move forward.
Yeah, I also wanted to note that it's really difficult when we have this many people. I mean, it's exciting to see that we had about 100 people turn out for tonight's meeting, which is wonderful. Obviously, we'd like to do these in person, and hopefully moving forward, we will be able to. But with COVID still, thank you for showing up on the screen. But we recognize it's really difficult that we can't obviously have the same type of discussions that we would in person. So we're doing the best we can to try and make sure we capture all of your information. And like Nicholas said, we'll digest it all and make sure we get back to you all about a lot of the questions that may not have been answered today.
Chris, you're muted.
There.
Thank you. I had to unmute. Yes, I was just going to say that we will be compiling all of the information, the presentations that were shared from this evening. We'll have a recording of the main introductory presentation, the results of the Mentimeter surveys. We will make an effort to respond to the questions that were put in the chat that we were not able to respond to in the session this evening. And then the breakout session materials will be available on Mentimeter going forward. So before we wrap up this evening, we did wanted to have each of the facilitators of the groups do a very brief overview of the high points of the conversations that were had in each group. And so I'm going to go ahead and start with the Urban Forestry and Ecology group. And I'll just start by noting that there were a lot of participants who expressed a real concern for the urban forest, a real deep connection with the park, many who have lived in the area for a long time, and some new residents who have also come and really found the existing park to be something very special. There were several, I think, recommendations about how to preserve trees in the park, and a overlying concern about the second smaller multi-use field, and looking at options to either adjust the size of it or potentially relocate it as part of the design process, with the goal of preserving trees at the south central part of the park that are, some of which are very large and significant. And so those were, I think, some of the high level concerns from that group. And what we shared out was that we're here to listen, and we will be looking at alternatives as we develop the design. And we'll be bringing those alternatives back as part of the second workshop, and having opportunities to discuss those as part of some of the community events coming up. So that's, I think, a good overview for the urban forestry group.
I had a just quick request. Can you make it so that we can save the chat? There's a lot of good comments in there, and it would be great for us to be able to just save it like we normally would in a Zoom. And short of that, if someone could save it and send it to everyone here, that would be great.
Yes.
Yeah, second that. I'd like to be able to save it.
I would too. Yes.
Chris, did you want me to jump in and recap the sports and play area?
Yes, please go ahead. Maria.
Okay, great. Yeah, we had a lot of participants in both breakout groups. There were a lot of folks really interested in the fact that the county and participants have requested more expanded sports and athletic spaces. There was interest in soccer, baseball, a lot of interest in the tennis and pickleball courts, pump track and volleyball. We got some really great ideas about potential themes for the play spaces. There was a lot of interest in forest and nature play. Also some fun ideas like space or space travel, and or sea, focused on the sea. And then interest in like cultural heritage, and really sharing the culture of the park and the surrounding area. Folks shared about the types of play structures that they think would be fun for families at Flood Park. There was interest in natural features, rope structures, and swings. There was also interest in like climbing features or a big slide and bridge. So a lot of big kind of physical active play. And then folks also shared what other amenities might be nice in the play spaces. And some of the important features were benches and seating, shade, plants and nature. So again, our group had a little discussion about how the sports field, the second smaller multi-purpose field, what are options for fitting that in while minimizing, reducing any of the trees. Yeah, it was good group.
Great. Lauren, do you want to share out from the history?
Yeah, I can share some brief thoughts from the history group. So we walked through a very brief history of the park and the adobe structures, and talked about the condition of the existing Adobe administration building that will be rehabilitated as part of this project and will take on a new life with a new use. And so it looks like as part of the group that we're using that as either a community and event space or an interpretive center were the most popular options for that building. And then we also talked about the picnic areas, both the drop-in picnic areas and the reservable picnic areas throughout the park. And I think had some great discussions about what those could be, and how well loved they are. So we got some good ideas for how to make a great picnic area, making sure that there's shade provided, that they're private or well separated, that there's casual seating, so things like stumps or picnic benches, and that there's also room for kids to run around nearby. I will note there were some concerns about the picnic areas, about noise, and then also, use of the picnic areas concurrently with sports fields and, generating, lots of people in the park. But overall, I think it was a really great discussion, and looking forward to hearing more.
Arturo.
For our group, it was very unfortunate that we were not able to have a full representation of the Spanish-speaking community being represented in the Spanish-speaking breakout group. However, we did have one person briefly join us in the breakout room in the beginning, but she needed to leave, so she left us with some concerns. Her concern is that the Latinx community and folks of color are not being represented in the design process, and it was evident today that we should take into consideration of other methods to reach out to the Latino community. We talked about like physically going to the events in schools, partnering with nonprofit orgs and other orgs that work in the area, and just physically going to the park and nearby areas where people are active, like playing soccer and stuff like that. Yeah, the main thing was just make this information and process really more accessible to all communities.
Great, thanks for that, Arturo.
Yep.
Nicholas, do you want to go ahead and close us out, and we can share some of the information about some of the upcoming events as part of that?
Yeah, Chris, thank you. So as we stated at the beginning, today was, today was the first workshop of 3, and the next step will be a series of pop-up events that we will hold. And as you saw in the schedule, the plan will be to hold a couple of pop-up events between each workshop. So the next workshop is scheduled for sometime in June. This is still a bit fluid based on the design process and feedback we're receiving. And I'm not gonna lie, I can't see the details on the last one because the chat keeps popping up and blocking my vision. So let me do this. And then September would be the 3rd workshop before we go to the board. This is going to be what I would consider a robust year of public engagement. And one of the things that was said at the end was going into the community, and that's really what these pop-up events are about. So it's really important that we recognize that this is these workshops are a very important part of the design process, as are the pop-up events and any online opportunities that we provide. So what I would certainly do is encourage everyone to go to the Parks Department's website and sign up for email updates. One of the questions, which is just put into the chat. So by going there, signing up for email updates, we're going to be able to get you information in a efficient way and be able to provide you with the most up-to-date information available. So certainly please make sure you have an opportunity to do that. But other than that, I just really want to take a moment to thank everyone for spending your evening with us. I know, and we all know, that time is precious and limited. And so for you to spend it with us tonight, we certainly appreciate that. And we appreciate you sharing your open, honest feedback with us and allowing us to work towards a project that is going to represent the community and serve the community for many generations to come.
How many people attended tonight? I'd be interested.
I see right now it says 69. I think at one point I saw 100.
Wow.
100 was the highest number I saw on the participant count.
That's great.
Nicholas, where can we see the video if we want to? I was driving, so I didn't see it for your presentation.
I'll be posted on our website.
Under Flood Park?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, the video and all the content from tonight's workshop will be posted there as we compile it.
And the chat
It
too?
would be great to have the chat too, because we're not able to copy it at the moment, so it's just going to evaporate.
We will work on that and do what we can to capture it.
How about the written statements, written comments?
I think that's the chat.
Yeah, the chat, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Nicholas, I'll just speaking for myself and everyone, I think, thank you for this. This is a great, all you people have put in time and effort on this. And I think it's great that you're hearing what the community is wanting and getting that feedback. I think the one thing that would be great in the next one would be a little bit more ability to make comments about other, you know, we say other, but let's be able to write in. We use the comments for that, but it would be nice to have a little bit more dialogue as opposed to just being prompted for answers. So maybe a combination of both, but this was great. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Ron, thank you very much. And certainly, I really hope that, you know, I just kind of laid out a series of meetings. I really hope that one of these, at least one of them, is going to be in person and we can see everyone in a safe way. And I think that certainly provides a different element to the meetings. But you know, we certainly we adapt, and I think today went very well, and it went well because you all participated. So thank you very much.
Nicholas, meet at the park.
Yes, come to the park.
Yeah.
Come and enjoy
Happy
the
to.
park.
Absolutely.
Are there statistics on what areas have participated in this process? Because I'm walking away with this feeling as if a lot of us were not represented in this process, and that's concerning.
Yeah, I'd have to go back. I'd have to go back to look if there was a zip code attached to that or not. That's something I'd have to look at.
Like by neighborhood.
If I can jump in, this is Carla.
Please, yeah, thanks, Carla.
We have zip code data, so I'll go and look and see exactly where that is in the historical documents.
Great.
This is Nettie. I just wanted to say it's concerning to me since I live by the park and I know that a lot of the picnic users are from the Latino community and they have never been represented at these meetings. I, some years ago, went and talked to about 10 or 12 different groups. I just walked around to ask them if they knew anything. Not a one knew anything about this whole process. And so here we have all these people that have been using the park for decades for family and church events, and they don't know what's going on. So it's just a concern that the feedback that's coming in is not pertaining to a lot of the users that are there now.
Yeah, Nettie, so as part of the outreach process and as part of this design process, we will be engaging with everyone who's made a reservation at the park through our reservation system. So we have their contact information. So we will be able to directly reach out to them and have that conversation. So that's one method of outreach and engagement that we're doing. We've also been very fortunate to have many community-based organizations working with us and participating in the working group and participating for the outreach of this, and certainly, excuse me, some of those pop-up events will be hopefully partnered with those organizations. So I hear what you're saying. I certainly have had numerous conversations with community-based organizations that are working with us on this. So I appreciate your concern on that, and we share that concern, and so we are working to address that.
Did you send notification to all the people that have made reservations in some 5-year period for this meeting, for example?
I'd have to look into that, but we are working on really specifically a survey for picnicking, right? And asking individuals who have had reservations for picnics, what are you looking for when you have a picnic or a reservation? What type of uses and amenities do you want to have on site? And do you want to be able to access? And when I say on site, I mean on your reservation site. And then as well as what type of facilities do you want to access? Playgrounds, fields, trails, whatever it may be. And so that's what that survey is going to do, is specifically target those types of questions.
But Nicholas, I've been there many times during the week and going birding, for example, and there are many people with children playing in the playgrounds. I mean, those are people who don't make reservations.
Well, so this is a multi-pronged approach, right? So we're not just saying we're going to send out a reservation and that's it, right? I mean, we're having the conversation tonight. We are going to be hosting online opportunities. We're going to be having pop-up events, with one of the pop-up events really focused on the playground. So that's why we do multiple different ways of engaging with the public, is for exactly what you just said, which is you know, people use the park for different reasons, right? As I said earlier, the park is something, different people get different things out of the park. And some people want playgrounds, some people want reservations. And so, and some want something else. So when we structure a public engagement process, that's what we have to factor in. Tonight is just one part of a larger process. So, so we certainly will be doing everything we can to engage with all the different user groups. So, but yeah, no, I appreciate you raising those concerns. And again, just want to thank everyone for.
I just want to ask you, anybody goes there during the week instead of on weekends, when indeed there are few people out there. And then I also noticed like the ball fields are completely covered with ground squirrels and nobody's maintained it. So, you know, I just wonder if you're actually reaching the people who are there during the week and not on weekends when there might be more people.
Well, that's certainly the goal, and that's certainly what we're working to do. So is to capture all the different user groups based on, you know, whether you use it during the week or on the weekend. So we are working to make sure we're capturing all of that. So again, we are well aware that, you know, people use the parks for different reasons at different times of day, on different days of weeks, and that's all what we have to capture during this large public process. Again, tonight was one step, or was one meeting in a much larger process, and we're going to make sure that those other elements of the park, you know, where I have a chance to hear feedback on those parts as well. So,
thank you. Goodbye.
Thanks, Scott. Have a good one.
Thank you very
everyone.
much.
Have a great night.
Yes, thank you all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.